It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Tuesday edition of the show. Hey, thanks so much for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147, of course, with this great ag lineup, a big part of your workday. It is great to be here with you, and we're going to dive into we're going to dive into some politics here a little bit today in the first part of the show. We'll be joined by John Barlow. He is the Shadow Minister for Agriculture and Agri-food with the Conservative Party of Canada. Of course, Parliament returns next week. But meanwhile, John was at the convention for the Conservative Party in Quebec, and I know that here today he's out in PEI at a conference. So we're going to find out what he's doing there. And I got a whole bunch of stuff to talk to him about. We got the convention. We've got some legislation that is still in the books, has to get royal assent here as Parliament returns. What's interesting is that there's this big fear that there was going to be an election called in the fall or, for sure by Q1 of 24. Based on how the Liberals have absolutely tanked in the polls. I think we're up to about a 14-point lead, I believe, for the Conservatives over the Liberals. And again, we talked about this yesterday on the show, really a brutal trip to India for the Prime Minister. That's not going to help him in the polls. There's a lot of momentum behind the Conservatives. So there's really no chance, like political, just terrible decision-making if the Liberals were to even entertain an election at this point. So it looks like fall of 2025 is a little bit more of a realistic thing. And the reality is probably if you were to survey Canadians, they don't really want to have an election. Maybe if the popularity keeps on swinging, maybe they will want an election called, but it just feels like we just did that. So anyway, the point is that some of that legislation that we maybe thought would not get royal assent because they kind of lost momentum in the House or the Senate leading into the break, there's going to be some time here in the fall to work on it now. So that, I guess, from that aspect, that is quite encouraging. I was thinking about Bill C-234, which is the exemption of the carbon tax for things like grain drying and irrigation and others, and heating of livestock barns, things like that. So that's important. We'll ask John about that and a few other things for sure. Also here today on the show, we are going to hear from Olivia Noorenberghe. She's with Pride Seeds. Now, I did mention that Pride Seeds is our sponsor. It's Real Agriculture's sponsor of Canada's Outdoor Farm Show coverage. So when you watch any of our videos on RealAgriculture.com or on YouTube, you listen to some of the podcasts of the coverage, it's all brought to you by Pride Seeds. So big shout out to them. We're going to hear a product spotlight today from Olivia when she joins us. And we're also going to hear today from Justin Funk of RealAgristudies. We're going to dive into the latest RealAgristudies survey focused on inflation and interest rates. Some interesting things have come out of that survey. We'll get the highlights from Justin. And if you answer the survey, you're going to get you've got a subscriber video, a respondent video that is headed to your inbox, I believe, probably tomorrow. So if you're not a member of our RealAgristudies Insights panel, it's free. All you got to do is answer a quick survey once a month. It's very, very simple. Go to RealAgristudies.com and sign up and participate. More the merrier. So we're looking to have more farmers join that panel for sure. We're also out of time today for the top ag news stories of the day. If you have any feedback on today's show, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can find us across all the different social media channels as Real Agriculture. You can also call the Real Ag feedback line. The number is 855-776-6147. In this job, I get a chance to talk to a lot of interesting people. This is a fun gig that I somehow stumbled into. Love it. I was gone for 2 weeks. I didn't get to do it. I come back. This is my happy place, spending this hour with you here every single weekday. once in a while I get to do some other appearances on other shows. Now, I really wish that like the MLB channel or Channel 84, which is my favorite channel, which is the college sports channel, I wish they would call once in a while, maybe do an interview. But one interview I do get to do once a month is on Canada Talks, 167. And the show Canada Now is hosted by Jeff Samet. And he is keenly interested in what's going on in agriculture. And he has me on as a guest once a month. And it's really always a lot of fun. And honestly, during baseball season, we always spend a little bit of time in our 15-minute discussion talking about baseball, which was really good. So I get to channel my inner want to be a sports analyst. But yesterday we talked about my column I wrote about farmland and how we're losing it. We have a reduction in farmland every day here in Canada, and a lot of that is for a number of reasons. The biggest one is probably I think it would be urbanization. And I talked about how there's some uncomfortable truths that come with that. Okay, there's some uncomfortable truths that come with that I think sometimes we just don't really talk about. In my opinion, in many ways, farmers are as much, we talk about being in the food, we're feeding the world. Well, that may be true depending on how you look at it, but the reality is we're also in the land business. Okay? And the farming allows for, at times, this, it enables us to pay for our habit of being able to invest in land. And sure, we're losing land to urbanization, but it seems some stakeholders believe farmland must be preserved at any cost. It's just not possible or realistic, in my opinion. In a long enough timeline, farmers that own land are as much land investors as they are farmers. History shows that owning land has been great for balance sheets. According to Farm Credit Canada, Canadian farmland was up 12.8% in 2022 and 8.3% in 2021. Significant wealth has been created in agriculture among landowners due to strong demand for farmland. And that demand is coming from other farmers that want to expand or, honestly, from cities. We should not begrudge this. Concerns over the increasing barrier to entry for newer expanding farmers notwithstanding, that is a real concern. The cost of land and equipment, I might add, is a major barrier to entry. If you're going to argue against urban sprawl or changing the greenbelt boundary, then you should also be against farmers selling prime farmland to developers, full stop. But most farms are sold in Canada not based on cash flow, like an EBITDA multiple like in other industries, but on asset values. For many farmers, land holdings are the true exit plan for retirement. This exit opportunity can come from aggressive peers looking to expand, like I mentioned, or if you're really financially lucky and you win the bloody lottery, it comes from housing or commercial developers. We're talking tens of millions of dollars for a quarter. Like, who's turning that down? It's ridiculous. Should cities consider to be built up instead of out more often as a part of city planning? Absolutely. But listen, there's a free market and those drivers push for continued build out. Let's be honest. Encouraging local, regional, or federal governments to protect farmland from development is an ask that isn't always applied in reality. That's my thoughts. I want yours on this topic. Jeff Sam and I had a great discussion about it on Canada Talks 167. If you haven't checked out the channel, I encourage you to do so. Send me your feedback. Okay? Send me your feedback. shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also find us across all the different social media channels, or you can call that RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Are farmers as much in the land business as they are the food production business? I think so. I think it's just a reality. It's true. Let me know what you think. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're talking to John Barlow. He's a shadow minister for Agriculture and Agri-food for the Conservative Party of Canada. We're going to find out how he's making out on the island in PEI right after this.
Does your N stabilizer contain an active ingredient load high enough to be agronomically effective? If not, it could be costing you time and money. If you're putting down a nitrogen stabilizer, put your trust in Koch Agronomic Services. Solutions like Super U, Tribune, and Anvil. Each delivers high active ingredient concentrations that low-rate products just can't match. Compare how imitator products stack up to agronomically effective solutions at defendyourn.ca.
It's time for today's product spotlight, and joining me on the line to Tyler Gullen for New Farm. Tyler, it is time as harvest wraps up to talk about what we can do in the fall to save us some time in the spring. Number one, what's on our list?
That fall spraying could really be a great start for next spring. And, in particular, if you can spray a soil residual product, Valterra or Fierce herbicides, they both provide up to 8 weeks of residual control next spring to control those tough weeds you have, if it's kochia, lamb's quarters, things like that, to really control them right as they emerge in the spring. You can apply them with just a regular sprayer, and you don't incorporate them. So it's a really nice option to really get that true single pass for fall spraying. And they do have a lot of cropping flexibility for next spring when you fall apply.
All right, where can producers find more information about Valterra and Fierce?
You can go to newfarm.ca/fall apply or give us a call at 1-800-868-5444.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio. Let's talk some politics. Why not on this Tuesday? Joining us right now is the Shadow Minister for Agriculture and Agri-food for the Conservative Party of Canada, is the MP from the Foothills riding. It is John Barlow. John, how are you doing?
I am great, Sean. Thanks very much for having me. It's great to be on.
And nowhere near Foothills. You're out on the island in PEI. What's happening?
Yeah, I'm enjoying some PEI hospitality this week with the agriculture conference that's here with the European Union and the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. So some really great topics that are being discussed here on the island, and some great connections that are going to be made here, and certainly talking about everything from global trade issues, supply chain, and the future of agriculture. So I'm really looking forward to this week.
Yeah, beautiful beautiful area of Canada. I was there in February. You're there in a much better time period of the year than when I was there in the winter time. So you were much smarter than I was. Okay, convention last week. It seems, John, that pretty good reaction from a lot of conservatives in terms. It seems to be some real momentum right now. What were your takeaways from convention last week?
Yeah, it met the expectations. I came in there thinking it was going to be some really good energy. Obviously, with the polling numbers that have come out over the last week or 10 days, sure show that we're trending in the right direction, and the messages we're putting out there are resonating with folks. And I just thought there was some great energy, great enthusiasm, and really good discussion, and just a great opportunity to kind of bond with the team from coast to coast to coast.
Not a lot of agriculture when it comes to some of the policy development. Disappointment for you, or what are your thoughts there?
No, I don't think so. There were a few agriculture issues raised, but they did not make it through to the plenary stage. But I think despite those specific things not coming up, agriculture was discussed at length. If you listen to Pierre's speech, he talked about it a great deal, but certainly the impact the carbon tax and supply chain issues and input costs are having substantial impact on Canadian agriculture and the cost of food at the grocery store shelves. So even though there wasn't some specific policy issues passed during the convention, there's no question that agriculture, input costs, and those types of things, and the cost of food were certainly top of mind and discussed at length.
Yeah, there's been a lot of criticism right now with the Prime Minister's trip to the G20, and saw the letter from the Minister of Trade out of Saskatchewan. I don't know if you had a chance to see that, but very, very critical of the lack of focus on trade and economic development. Did trade itself, and agriculture gets roped into that, right? Did trade itself get much attention at convention?
Yeah, it was a significant topic. I think we've learned through COVID and the supply chain issues that we've had that we cannot rely on the bad actors around the world. We need to strengthen our relationships with our trusted trading partners. But that goes both ways. We talked a lot about infrastructure, ports, rail lines. Canada has to be a trusted trading partner as well. We have to be a reliable trading partner, getting our products to market on efficiently and on time. But like you said, when the Liberals are discussing trade issues, they aren't talking about economics. They aren't talking about the business of those trade issues. There's so many more social issues that come into play there, and we've certainly seen that with India. We've now kind of stalled the trade talks, and obviously that has a huge impact on Saskatchewan and Alberta with peas and pulses. We want access to that market like we've had in the past, and not having access to that market to the extent that we know we can is disappointing.
Parliament returns next week. We should be seeing, you'd think relatively shortly here, the mandate letters going out to all the ministers. Obviously, you're the shadow minister for Agriculture and Agri-food. What would you like? What do you think needs to be in the mandate letter for Minister McCauley?
Honestly, I hope the mandate letter has an outline for Minister McCauley to get back to the basics, making policy decisions that are what is best for Canadian agriculture. And what I mean when I say that, I want policies and regulations to be based on sound science, consultation, and not ideology and activism. Anywhere from the e-logs to decisions of CFIA and PMRA to trade negotiations. Let's get back to what are the important things, and that everything should have a lens of the economic impact it has on Canadian farmers and producers. But also, we have to have a thought on what is going to be the impact on Canadians and the prices they're paying at the grocery store shelves. Are additional regulations like front of pack labeling, fertilizer tariffs, higher fertilizer costs, what impact are those having on the price of groceries at the grocery store shelf? That has to be an overarching theme in that mandate letter.
You mentioned affordability and food prices several times. I think it was the FAO last week that reported that global food prices, again, on the decline. I've heard Leader Poilievre talk numerous times. Pierre has mentioned several times about the fact, he talks a lot about affordability. Is that something that you're hearing from? Is this like a winning message from your perspective for your party?
Absolutely. No matter where I go, and Shaun, I've spent this summer, hitting just about every corner of Canada, trying to talk to as many farmers and ranch families and agri-food businesses as I can. And affordability is the number one issue that is coming up. Whether that's talking to consumers and the price of groceries at the grocery store shelf, or for farmers who just can no longer absorb these higher input costs. And that starts with the carbon tax and the price of fuel and drying grain and those types of things, which hopefully we'll be able to address in the fall. But there's no question these things are having an impact. I'm looking forward to seeing the Canada Price Index report later this fall, and we'll be having maybe a more accurate picture of where we are. But the feeling is from Canadians across the country is that times are tough and they're finding it hard to make ends meet. And I think you're seeing that with the number of visits to food banks across Canada at unprecedented numbers.
John, what is the update on C-234?
Yeah, right now it's at the Senate. It's going to be in the Agriculture Committee. Spoke to Rob Black here this week and Senator Wells on the Conservative side, who's leading that through. Seems to be real optimism that there shouldn't be any further hiccups, and I'm really hoping that we'll have this through and given royal assent by the end of October, early November at the latest. But certainly this will offer some relief to Canadian producers when they get that exemption on the carbon tax on natural gas and propane, which was imperative as we headed to winter, as you're heating barns and drying grain. So hopefully we'll have some really good news for Canadian farmers later this fall.
Do you think there was a missed opportunity here to, one of the complaints I've heard from some farmers, more specifically from a drying corn perspective, is that commercial dryers are excluded. They will not get the exemption. Do you think that's a missed opportunity that should have been in this bill?
Yeah, I certainly heard that, Shaun, from touring around Ontario in August. And my message to those folks is, to get this through, we needed the support of all the opposition parties, the NDP and the Bloc, and we even have the Greens on side right now. But if we were to expand this to include commercial grain drying, we were not going to get the support of those parties, and this bill would have died. So I know it's not the best, but something is better than nothing. And this is a compromise that, as Conservatives, we had to make to get 234 to the finish line. So I know it doesn't include commercial grain drying, and that's a missed opportunity. But this was the best we could do to get the NDP and the Bloc on side. And my message to those folks is, hey, Conservative government comes in the next year or two, and the carbon tax will be scrapped altogether, and we won't have to worry about it. But as I said, for right now, something is better than nothing.
That's a good, yeah. Okay, so whatever has, and you know the inside baseball here better than I do. I remember when Aaron O'Toole was the leader, he had come out with a plan for, I can't remember how that's described. It was criticized for being just another version of the carbon tax. At a convention, was there kind of a plan discussed at all, or has that come out of the party at this point in terms of, or is it scrap the carbon tax and move forward, or is there sort of some sort of system or plan B that the Conservative Party is going to be pushing? Has that been all devised yet?
Yeah, no, there's no question. It's not just scrap the carbon tax. We do have to offer Canadians a credible and thorough plan for the environment, and I think you'll see that. The details on that have not been released, but I can tell you we are going through the process of developing our policies and our campaign platform topics right now. That was discussed at length at the convention, and there was some minor tweaks to, I shouldn't say minor. There was some really good discussion on our environment and climate policy at convention. Actually, a few of them were supported by my EDA. It was great to see that kind of discussion, as Conservatives know that our climate and our environment is critical to us, and we need to protect that. Taxes aren't the way to do that. We need to be innovative. We need to embrace new technology. We also have to get rid of, and I hate to use a cliche here, but get rid of the red tape that holds back innovation and commercializing new opportunities and new technology. So it was a great discussion, good topics, and some ideas certainly discussed. But the details are, we're going to hold on to those till we're a little closer to an election.
You get a chance to tour around and see some farms in PEI?
Yeah, I'm going to, we're busy at the convention, obviously, but we're going to see the Cavendish Research Farm tomorrow, and then do some roundtables with some producers later in the week, and certainly looking forward to doing that. And obviously, the PEI potato issue is still front of mind, but for farmers here in PEI, for the first time, they're paying the carbon tax and the Liberal fuel standard tax. So their fuel prices here have gone up 25 cents a liter since July 1st, and that's a pretty big hit. That was not budgeted for, not expected. So I know that'll be a topic of discussion.
Yeah, well, and the maritime premiers came out hard against the clean fuel regulation. Premier Moe of Saskatchewan also spoke out against it. I think Daniel Smith, Premier of Alberta, also did. That's going to be sort of a challenge probably for the party to also reconcile having biofuel policy supportive of farmers and farm commodity demand, but also have something that doesn't necessarily negatively impact consumers at the pump. That's a balance, right?
Yeah, I think there's obviously a place for biofuels and clean fuels and things like that, and I don't think any of the premiers that I've seen oppose that in theory. The argument was like, you just slammed us with this. We wanted this to be phased in over a period of time that they could, absorb some of the sticker shock. But they haven't been able to do that when you see, gas and diesel prices go up by 25 cents a liter, 17 cents a liter, I think, on diesel here in PEI specifically. So that's sort of the message I've heard from premiers is we don't oppose this idea of supporting biofuels and the development of biofuels. Certainly has a role. But how the Liberals did this was just overwhelming. And you talk to bureaucrats in Ottawa, they say it's the most complicated and intricate piece of legislation they've ever dealt with. So there's still a lot that we're trying to unwind with this. And so I think there's a place for it, but the Liberals have obviously, fumbled this fall.
Well, John, I really appreciate you squeezing us in. You're in PEI, which is, hey, that's the home turf of Minister McCauley. I want to see like Instagram reel of the two of you having like a oyster shucking contest or something. Something like that. Something fun. That'd be good. I would like that.
Come on. You got to be something fair. Like he'll just, that's something he's probably done his whole life. You got to have maybe like corn shucking or something that I would at least have a half a chance in. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing Lawrence later today, and I know we're meeting for lunch in Ottawa once we get back there, and certainly look forward to working with Minister McCauley once we get back in the House here next week.
Okay, look forward to hearing about that, definitely in future conversations. Hey, John, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure, Sean. Thanks very much for having me, and you take care. That
is John Barlow, Shadow Minister for Agriculture and Agri-food with the Conservative Party of Canada. We'll be right back here on RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM.
What's next for your fields? At Pioneer, delivering industry-leading genetics drives everything we do. From the scientists in the lab to our local teams with boots on the ground. We are determined to get there first. Developing top-performing products, proven in more growing conditions than ever before. Pioneer. What's next happens here. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more.
You know, there's a reason we call it the Corn School. Videos on everything from planter setup, weed control, field trial results, yield strategies, and so much more. The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com has the information and advice you need to help you succeed. Brought to you by Pride Seeds and BASF, Corn School episodes are available at cornschool.com, from RealAgriculture.com, or as a podcast from your favorite streaming service. Download the latest podcast today.
Looking for robust, reliable grain storage solutions? AGI leads the industry in quality, innovation, and offerings to protect your investment. Designed for exceptional cleanout, superior strength, and unbeatable versatility, you can rest easy knowing your grain is secure in an AGI West Steel bin. With 100 years of manufacturing experience, AGI West Steel bins will exceed your expectations for reliable storage. AGI West Steel. Long-term safe storage. Find AGI at your local dealer.
Back to RealAg Radio. It's now time for a product spotlight with Pride Seeds. And we're talking right now to Olivia Noorenberghe. She is market development agronomist with Pride Seeds. Olivia, great to have you on the show.
Great to be here. Thanks, Sean.
Well, it's a pretty exciting week. Canada's Outdoor Farm Show is on in Woodstock, Ontario. I know that you are on site on the grounds, and I actually should mention that Pride Seeds is the sponsor of Real Agriculture's coverage of Canada's Outdoor Farm Show as well. So you can find that coverage all at realagriculture.com and as well on our YouTube channel. So Olivia, what are some of the things that are going to be happening down there at the Pride Seeds Pavilion this year?
So we've got lots of things going on each day. We're actually doing some agronomy talks each day. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, we will have our agronomists around, and we will be doing discussions on, basically in the morning session, we'll cover our Eyes on Ears segment. We're going to be going over, what happened this spring, insights gained from the 2023 growing season, and how we're going to review the crop staging and things to consider going into harvest. And then in our afternoon session at 2 o'clock each day, we're going to discuss traits and technology, what's coming in the Pride pipeline, hybrids to kind of look out for this year, and what to expect from us in the coming years.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about Canada's Outdoor Farm Show is that the plots are right there on site. So you can say hi to your local Pride Seeds rep and then go take a meander through some of the plots and check out some of those new products with your own eyes.
Yeah, it's great. We have 10 new hybrids this year with traits such as Sept and SmartFX Pro. And we also have a large selection of soybeans, kind of ranging in that double zero maturity to late maturity group 2. And we have them, in Enlist, Extend Flex. We've got a large option, so feel free to stop by if you're at the Pride booth, and we can give you a little bit of a tour. We have some other things going on at the booth as well. We're going to have a photo booth there. As well as we're having daily raffles for a set of cornhole boards. So stop by and you guys can enter to win one of those pairs of boards. Are
some of those Pride Seeds cornhole boards going to be set up so people can engage in maybe a bit of a game while they're walking through those plots?
Yep. Yeah, we'll have a few on site and so that people can play around and, hang out.
Cool. Well, the key to any great tailgate is cornhole. Are you pretty good at cornhole, Olivia?
I dabble a little bit, yeah.
You dabble. It depends where we are, how deep we are into that six-pack. That's at least how I judge my skill in cornhole. So, well, very, very cool stuff. Because I know that you mentioned 10 new corn hybrids. Now, are those 10 hybrids for Eastern Canada, or is that also including some of the Western Canadian products?
So that's including Western Canada as well as Eastern Canada. We have basically, our whole lineup at the farm show. So it's really nice to see those early hybrids as well as our later day hybrids as well.
Oh, very, very exciting. So the show is happening today, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The Pride Pavilion, there's a big Pride logo on the front of the pavilion. So if you are down at the farm show, make sure you go to the pavilion and say hi to Olivia and the rest of the gang at Pride Seeds. Hey, Olivia, if somebody can't make it down to the farm show but they want more information, talk to your local retailer or go to prideseeds.com. Is that the best way to get a hold of you?
Yep. No, our contact information is on our website if you want to reach out to any of my fellow agronomists or our sales rep.
Great stuff. Well, Olivia, have a great time at the show. Say hello to everybody there at Pride Seeds, and look forward to chatting with you again.
Thank you, Sean.
That is Olivia Noorenberghe. She is the market development agronomist with Pride Seeds. And like I mentioned, Pride Seeds is our sponsor of the Canada's Outdoor Farm Show coverage. You can find it at realagriculture.com or on our YouTube channel. And make sure you go to prideseeds.com and check out their great lineup of products and technologies. We'll be right back on RealAg Radio with more right after this.
Dedication. Watching the sunset over your crop is one of life's simple pleasures. The anticipation of it all. We know that feeling. Introducing our new Airflex NXT, our best honeybee header yet with the closest cut ever. Light, fast reacting, and infinitely adjustable. More yield, less time and work. Airflex NXT focuses on the future. What drives your next? Visit honeybee.ca or contact your nearest honeybee dealer.
The Advancing Women Conference, the national leadership conference for women in ag, is celebrating 10 years of bringing women in ag together. Whether you're a producer, student, entrepreneur, representative of grower association, or corporate agribusiness, invest in yourself in Niagara Falls on November 19th, 20th, and 21st. Visit advancingwomenconference.ca for more information and to register.
Before we get to the results of the RealAgristudies inflation survey that was recently completed and some of the results of that and how it's impacting your farm business, let's talk about low-rate NBPT solutions that claim to protect nitrogen, but no imitator product delivers like Anvil nitrogen stabilizer, the next-gen urease inhibitor from Koch Agronomic Services. See how others stack up to the proven power of Anvil at defendyourn.ca. defendyourn.ca. Okay, let's talk about the recent RealAgristudies survey that was put out to farmers across Canada, farmers and ranchers. They told us how concerned they are about inflation, how it's impacting their business strategy, and a whole bunch of other things. Here to talk about the high-level results is our partner in RealAgristudies. It is Justin Funk, based in Guelph, Ontario. Hey, Justin, how are you doing?
Hey, pretty good, Sean. How are you?
Well, I would do better if the Blue Jays could win a game here in this Texas series, and maybe not just one, but maybe the next three.
That would be nice. I was a little disappointed with yesterday evening's performance, but today's a new day.
We don't feel like a playoff team. I'm going to say it. I don't mean to be Debbie Downer. It's easy to be that way, and I don't want to be the typical Blue Jays fan. There's just something. Like going into the season, I really like the makeup of this team. But the level of inconsistency just seems to be sort of, and Texas has gone through its own challenges recently. Like the Texas is ripe for the picking, but boy, we have not, at least in game one, did not seize the moment.
Oh, Sean, I don't think I'm going to have enough nails left for the playoffs at the rate we're going here. So it's been a frustrating year for sure.
Yeah, we're in the playoffs, but boy, we're just hanging on. Okay, Justin, let's talk about the inflation study that we recently completed. We asked farmers how concerned they were about inflation. What did they say?
Well, farmers are concerned about inflation. I don't think that would surprise anybody. But what's interesting about this study, Shaun, is that we did the exact same study in April of 2022. And so fast forward now to August of 23, we've seen changes in how the Bank of Canada is approaching this issue. Farmers have had an opportunity to sort of adjust to this new reality. And so we wanted to see, what has changed in that time frame. So just to put this into perspective, in 2022, so this is April 2022, 72% of farmers said that they were extremely concerned about inflation. 34% said that they were somewhat concerned. In August, the level of concern decreased a bit. So 51% said they were extremely concerned and 43% said they were somewhat concerned. But you know what? It still translates to 95% are concerned. So I think that this, you can look at this any way you want. It's kind of like a universal concern.
Yeah. And there's real dissatisfaction, it seems, with how farmers and ranchers view the government's role in creating the inflation in the first place and what the strategy has been in the meantime to try to get inflation under control.
Yeah, so to obtain this insight from farmers, we present them with attitude statements. And I love attitude statements because, you present sort of a extreme point of view and you get people to express the level to which they agree or disagree. And so in this case, we asked them, here's the statement. Canadian policymakers' response to inflation has been very effective. 67% disagree with that statement. So, there's some malaise with respect to how they feel the policymakers are responding to this situation that we're in. When we present the statement, Canadian government policy has contributed to inflation, 86% agree to that. So that's pretty strong agreement. Farmers and ranchers are definitely drawing the line between the situation that we're in and Canadian government policy. And then the last attitude statement was this: interest rate increases are necessary to reduce inflation. Now, in this case, there was much more differentiation in response. The majority agree, but it wasn't a convincing level of agreement. I think that farmers recognize that interest rates must be used as a mechanism. However, it seems that they are somewhat skeptical as to the degree to which they feel it's actually working.
And what we also saw was these rising interest rates, or the concern about inflation, is impacting the farm management and some of the strategies, right? So one of the statements we made was, increasing interest rates have prevented me from pursuing otherwise planned farm growth. There was a lot of agreement to that statement.
Yeah, 59% agreed to that. And so anybody who might have had growth intentions leading up to whatever point have now sort of backed off on that because of interest rates. And, I guess you could argue that that's the intention around the interest rates increases, is to halt some of that otherwise planned spending. But 59% agreed to that one.
Yeah, and another result that shouldn't be any surprise to people, because if you think back to some of the results we've seen with the Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index, where we asked people about, is right now the right time to make capital investments, right? It's been a very flat number, 52, 54 out of 200, going back to basically a year ago. And in this study, we ask farmers, or we make the statement, increasing interest rates have prevented me from making capital investments. Again, strong agreement that this is really having an impact on what spending is going to be from the farmer and being willing to take on more capital investment.
Yeah, 63% agree to that particular statement.
Justin, is there any? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say then another impact that we looked at was the degree to which it impacts the farm's succession or transition plan. And now keep in mind, not every farmer that answered the question is going through transition right now. But, take that out of it. 44% agreed that interest rates have had a negative impact on the farm's transition or succession plan.
Yeah. That's one where I would really love to hear from the RealAg Radio audience in terms of, have have rising interest rates impacted your ability to work on that succession plan, and the why of that? Is that real, or is that just another excuse to kind of push it off? Because we have a real procrastination problem in farm country when it comes to farm succession, for sure. Were there any other outtakes, Justin, that maybe stood out to you and maybe surprised you a little bit? Like, as we look at all the demographics of the respondents, are there groups that are more or less likely to be concerned or impacted by some of the inflationary pressure and interest rates rising?
Yeah, one of the things that was interesting was to see the difference in age. The general consensus is that the younger you are, sort of the less concerned or less impacted you are, or perceived to be, to the interest rate increases and inflation. The older you are, the more impacted. And, I have to think that to a certain degree, that's a function of circumstance, where you are at in your life, but also experience. We often comment on the older farmers having had a greater experience seeing the rise and fall of interest rates throughout their career. And I would have to think that would impact how somebody answers some of these questions that are opinion based in particular.
Yeah. We also asked farmers about whether or not they had or intend to buy land in the 23-24 years. And what was it? 17% said they had or will purchase land this year?
That's correct. 17% said that they had or would. 59% said, nope, I'm not going to or haven't. And then 25% were undecided. So, there's still a chance. And maybe doing it or not could be somewhat influenced by would be influenced by interest rates and inflation.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, the less concerned you are about inflation, the more likely you are to be willing to be involved in the land market. Correct?
Absolutely. And so, you could almost draw a straight line between somebody's level of concern and their desire to purchase land. So if you were to look at those that said that they were somewhat unconcerned about the impact of inflation, which is one of the earlier questions that we just talked about, 50% of those said that they were looking to or had bought land in 2023 or 24. So, you would have to think that those two things are highly related to one another.
Very cool. Justin and I recorded a video breaking down a lot of the high-level results of this study. It's going to be posted at RealAgriculture.com. If you want more information on some of the work that we're doing at RealAgristudies, maybe it's this survey, maybe it's others that we've completed, like the Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index, make sure you go to RealAgristudies.com. And if you're not a part of our issues panel, then listen, our Real Agri-Studies Insights panel, I really encourage you to go to RealAgristudies.com and sign up. It's completely free. Like this survey, for example, I think took 4 minutes for people to complete. So it's pretty low time load for the value and the information that we're giving back to you. So highly encourage you to sign up and become a member of the panel. Hey, Justin, thanks so much for joining us here today. And let's hope the Blue Jays turn it around tonight against Texas.
Oh, that would be nice. Thanks a lot, Shaun.
Oh, absolutely. I'm frustrated. I am frustrated. But listen, I don't want to be negative. They're going to turn it around. Hey, when we come back, we are going to get to the top ag news stories of the day right after this.
At Brett Young, we focus on what's real. It's how we became Canada's largest independent seed company. That's why we're asking a real farmer, what do you think of BY6217TF, Brett Young's TrueFlex Canola Hybrid?
What's that?
BY6217TF, Brett Young's TrueFlex Canola Hybrid with Pod Defender shatter reduction technology and Defender-rated club root and blackleg resistance.
Good yield, yeah. Probably choose it again.
Thanks, Chris. Talk to your Brett Young retailer today to see for yourself. Brett Young, distinct by design.
Introducing the all-new Xerion 12 Series tractor by Kloss. Redesigned from the ground up to redefine the high-capacity four-wheel drive market. With 653 max horsepower, industry-leading hydraulic flow, a silky smooth CVT, a powerful TerraTrack undercarriage, and a quiet, comfortable cab with 20% more legroom. More than just power. The all-new Xerion by Kloss.
It's now time for the top ag news stories of the day, brought to you by pre-emergent soil active herbicides Valterra EZ and Fierce EZ from New Farm. Get ahead of hard-to-kill weeds. Spray this fall for up to 8 weeks of extended weed control next spring. That's a key. 8 weeks of extended weed control next spring. Find out more by going to newfarm.ca. New Farm, longtime supporter of RealAg Radio. Big thanks to them. Make sure you check it out, newfarm.ca. It's important you support and check out these people that support shows like this. Make it happen. If the commercials that run on the block on this show, or people that do interview product spotlights, they make this show happen. So make sure you talk to them and find out about their products. We tell them RealAg sent you. That's what remember you hear those commercials on the radio? Tell them Shaun sent you. Okay, let's get to the top ag news stories of the day. Canadians increasingly placing less importance on work. I read this and boy, I get concerned. The story in the National Post. And at the back, they talk to a work expert who says that all this data should not be concerning, and it's just Canadians trying to find better work-life balance. And basically, Canada has a productivity issue, and so the expert said this. You shouldn't assume this leads to less productivity. It's just that we're more in line with work-life balance. I say phooey. I'm concerned. I'll jump to conclusions on it. Here's some of the data. Of 24 countries surveyed, Canada ranks third from the bottom when respondents were asked if work is very important to their lives. In 2000, nearly 45% of Canadians said work should always come first, even if it means less spare time. 20 years later, that number has been cut in half. Just 19% of Canadians now believing work should always take priority. That's one of the findings from a recent study by the Policy Institute at King's College London. The analysis was carried out as a part of a World Values Survey, one of the largest and most widely used academic social surveys in the world, in operation for more than 40 years. So, ironically, Canada ranked as the second best country in the world for quality of life. A woman, let's see here. In Japan was the only country less likely than Canada to agree that work should always come first, with just 10% of respondents agreeing. In some comparable countries, such as Spain, 45%, France, 39%, the public was around twice as likely to say work should come first. We're behind European countries in this area. The countries that placed the most importance on work were Egypt, 92%, Nigeria, 83%, and China, 82%. Forget about those, the top. I wouldn't expect we'd be at the top, but the bottom and behind countries like Spain and France? Come on. Of 24 countries surveyed, Canada ranked third from the bottom when respondents were asked if work is very important to their lives. About 75% of Canadians agreed that it was, with only Russia, 74%, and the UK at 73%, less likely to agree. Let's see here. When asked if work is a duty to society, 55% of Canadian respondents agreed, finishing second last to Russia, where only 47% said that. What are we doing, Canada? How is this not concerning? And I hate to go like, old man, get off my lawn, but yeah, I find this very concerning. And to me, this links very closely a disconnect. And then this one could even make a stretch, and I'm editorializing here, of course. I want you to know that this is where people have been led to. The government is going to just protect us and is going to help us, and the government's going to solve it. No, I think these are very concerning numbers. Okay, the Canadian Centre for Food Integrity, the CCFI, bids a fond farewell to President and CEO John Jameson as he embarks on a new chapter in his remarkable career. John's unwavering commitment to advancing public trust in Canada's food system has been a cornerstone of its tenure. He was there since 2019. And I met John on a couple of occasions. I actually did their big public trust summit in a couple of years ago. It was in the middle of the pandemic, actually. So Mike Dungate, who's chair of the CCFI board of directors, stated, "We extend our heartfelt gratitude to John for his exemplary service as president and CEO." In other executive news, Shannon Benner is leaving 4-H Canada. So 4-H Canada, a leading positive youth development organization in Canada, will soon start the search for a new CEO. Current CEO Shannon Benner has led the organization for over a decade, but will leave on September 22nd, 2023 to pursue another opportunity. The chair of 4-H Canada Board of Directors, Dave Hansen, current CEO of Cantera Seeds, he said, "We are grateful to Shannon for her outstanding leadership and contributions to 4-H." A poll finds more than half of Canadians want fewer immigrants than Ottawa's target. More than half of Canadians want the federal government to accept fewer immigrants than it is planning in 2023. A new poll shows a rise from 1 in 3 in March. So this is a number that's increasing. The poll also found that 55% of Canadians want Canada to accept fewer international students than the 900,000 expected by the government this year. Well, I'll tell you what, that ain't going to happen. I wonder what is driving that. Because the reality is that those international students pay much higher tuition than your kids do, which at a time where universities are starved for funding, I can tell you the universities are going to push back hard against allowing less international students. I'm very curious as to why Canadians would have that view. A Nanos poll for the Globe and Mail found a rise of almost 20 percentage points in the past 6 months in the number of Canadians who think the country should accept fewer immigrants than Ottawa's 2023 target of 465,000. 53% of those polled said they want to see Canada accept fewer immigrants than the federal plan, compared with 34% in March. Just over a third say they want Ottawa to accept the same numbers projected, while 8% think Canada should accept more. So only 8% said they should increase more. Mark Miller, Canada's new immigration minister, indicated that last month that Canada is on track to bring in a record 900,000 international students this year, roughly triple the number of foreign students a decade ago. Okay, in other news, Stats Can has confirmed an increase in 2022-23 canola ending stocks compared to previous year. Also in the area of wheat, total Canadian all-wheat stockpiles at the end of 22-23 were record low despite a heavier annual supply. And in a quarterly grain stocks report on Friday, the federal agency pegged total national canola stockpiles as of July 31st, the official end of the 22-23 crop year, at 1.506 million tons, 13.7% above the upwardly advised 21-22 ending stocks level of 1.325 million, but still below its 2021 number of 1.776 million. Stats Can estimate fell within the pre-report trade guesses that range from 1.2 to 2 million tons, but below Ag Canada's August projection of 1.75 million. And if you didn't see some of the photos and video of the explosion at the ADM corn plant in Decatur, Illinois, I encourage you to check that out. ADM immediately contacted the fire department. Several employees were injured and transported to the local hospital for treatment, according to ADM. It was unclear what caused the blast, and the extent of the injuries were unknown. Reuters reported 8 people were hurt, citing the Decatur Fire Department, which added the fire was under control early Monday morning. Crazy footage. That's just when Kelvin shared with me the story from Reuters, all I could say was, holy bleep. Okay. If you have any feedback on today's show, send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Or, of course, you can always call that RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. Lindsay will be in this seat tomorrow. I'm back Thursday, and then she's back in the seat on Friday. Have a great day, everybody. Cheers.